sex, life, and tech. If you're 21 or 101, we love them all. Welcome to Age Blind with Nancy AF.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Age Blind again. This is your host, Nancy A. Shenker, also known as Nancy AF. And as I like to say, Age Blind, the podcast, is where the date on your birth certificate means shit. And I look for things that we all have in common as opposed to things that divide us. And you'll never hear me say, boomers do this, Gen Z does that, because that's like saying Asians do this and Black people do that. Old people are one of the few segments of the population where rampant ageism is considered okay. And I am trying to eradicate that, and I'm losing my little skeleton here. So for those of you who are watching the video, you'll see that my unnamed skeleton keeps falling down. So goodbye, skeleton, and let's just jump in. So let's start with our first question. How does each of you know me? Let's start with you, Stacy, because I think you know me the longest.
I'm sure I met you through, I hate to say social media, but I started my blog about 20 years ago, and Nancy was all in on PR, and she was everywhere I was. And we both came from Queens, and we had a lot in common, and we were a little feisty, and then we were from Westchester, we're from the Hamptons. We had a lot of things in common, and we were immediate friends.
Exactly. And Stacy's blog is called Stacy Knows because she knows everything, or she thinks she knows everything.
Absolutely everything.
It's what we in Yiddish call a yenta, professional yenta. Tori, how did you and I meet?
I want to say at our pool, because we were neighbors, and of course we immediately clicked because we're New Yorkers as well. I grew up in Queens, and yeah, we had a long, drawn-out conversation, and then I see you on the circuit all the time, girl.
We actually did meet a little earlier than that. You might not remember because you had had a lot to drink. It was at a Scottsdale Girlfriend, and Betsy introduced us. And we didn't like each other, but then we have since become fast friends. So it's funny how that sometimes happens. Heather, what about you?
Yeah, well, we initially connected through Quoted, a platform that pairs podcast hosts and other media outlets with guests. And then you and I hopped on a call just a few weeks ago, and I just loved your energy. I feel like we hit it off right away. And I was just struck by how easy it was to connect with you. I really appreciate it when people who make you feel instantly at ease. And I'd say that is you. So
thank you.
I'm glad to have you as a new friend.
Brooke, we had a meet cute story.
Yeah, it's like love at first sight, right? I was walking my dog, and I had a flight to catch that morning, but Nancy, I think she was just moving in. I was actually one of the first residents in our building. So I'm like, know what's going on there. And Nancy kind of just approached me. We kind of approached each other and just started
Although you had your earbuds in and I didn't care. I just talked over you.
Yeah, and that's when I knew okay, we're going to be a great fit because Nancy didn't give I had my AirPods in and I was like, I like that. I like women like that. So I took my AirPods off and we just connected, hit it off.
And Brett, what about you?
I think I was quite intentional. When I first moved to Scottsdale nearly 12 years ago, I really wanted to develop a network, and I figured why not go with the best networker in town? And I think I reached out to you on LinkedIn. I think that's how we met.
Yeah, maybe. And yes, when you move to a new city or new town, it is really, especially a town like Phoenix or Scottsdale, it can be really hard to make new friends because everyone is from somewhere else. And unlike New York, people don't really start up conversations with random strangers. They like to stay in their little cliques. So it has been really hard to break through. And the next question is the theme of today's episode in honor of Halloween is scary people, not like people who jump out of the dark and say boo, although they can be scary, or people who walk around with chainsaws, but people that we just tend to avoid. And I tend to avoid people who are cliquey and who lead with hate. I joined a women's group, and the leader of the group announced to the table that I was sitting at, she pointed at me and said, "We hate her because she looks so young," which was just a weird thing to say. Needless to say, I never went back to the group.
But that was such a nice compliment.
She was giving you a compliment, Nancy.
She was, but hate is a really, really nasty, specific word, um, there's another way to say it. So as an English major, maybe I am too judgy, but I pay a lot of attention to the words that come out of somebody's mouth, because once it's out, you can't stuff it back in. So Stacy, what kinds of scary people do you avoid? I mean, I know you're out and about all the time. We're just going to go down the line and everybody could answer that question.
Well, that's a sort of a tough question. I mean, normally I think I like everyone until I don't. So then they become scary. I don't like, I guess, like if you look at like the most gorgeous girl in the room, you're like, oh, maybe I don't need to talk to her. And then the ugliest person in the room, like, I don't really need to talk to her. Who am I talking to? Usually it's afterwards, like after we're friendly and then you beat me up for whatever reason it is.
Right.
Then
So
I
it's
am going to avoid you probably for the rest of my life.
Yep. Yeah, it's the behavior. So Tori and
Yeah.
Brooke, you both work in real estate. And so that's a tough business because you're showing houses to a lot of random people. And sometimes you might really not like them or vibe with them. Who are, without naming names, who are some of your demon clients, like people that you really don't want to show houses to if you had your choice?
Brooke, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I've come across, I guess, some scary people. I tend to stay away from very controlling people who have to have things that aren't open-minded, that have to have things a certain way. I was working with a guy from, ex-military, and that's fine, thank you for your service, but he tended to like kind of tell me what to do, micromanage me, even to like how I was sitting and responding. And that's just scary because they're taking your personality from you, and that really affects you long term. So I would just rather not work that deal, work with that client, because I don't want anybody telling me how I need to talk, how I need to act. I'm me. If we're not a good fit, we're not a good fit. That's
Love
really
that.
all there is to
Love
it.
that. All right, Tori, you can't get off the hook.
I would definitely agree with that. Like the manipulative controller who likes to dominate. Definitely I'm okay with moving on. Also someone who's just gonna like drain my energy or be negative or like always in that victimhood mode. Like I can't deal with it. Or people that are inconsistent too, like make a decision, buy a house or sell your house. So people that are like two-faced and opportunistic, just I really value freedom, energy, and trust. And I feel like those types of people are really just walking all over my parade and my values.
And energy vampires. Energy
Yes.
vampires.
Yes.
Bloodsuckers. Heather, what about you?
Yeah, I would definitely. I also value my energy, and the energy vampire is just steer clear as soon as you realize that person is that way. You got to value your own personal, I think, piece. But additionally, and I think you could pick up on this when you first meet someone. You don't always tune into the energy vampire right away. You kind of pick that up over time. But an ego-driven person is kind of easy to someone that just wants to talk about themselves, or if you do start talking about yourself, they turn that as an opportunity to turn it around and make it about them again. The me first type who just can't value others. It kills collaboration and it's an instant turn off for me. It's just not someone I care to continue a conversation with.
Yeah, I would add to that the mansplainers that at any age, I worked in corporate and male dominated industries, and any sentence that begins with, know what you should do.
Hate that.
Say, that's a great idea. Why don't
I'm making notes here, Nancy.
Yeah.
you'll have to wait for my Dating After 50 workshop to come out later this year. So Brett, you're definitely outnumbered here by
Yeah, no, I can see that.
women. You're a coach and a leader who works a lot with former athletes.
Yeah, I think the scariest person is anyone that keeps you tethered to your past. In that, when you're looking to go through a transition of any sort, whether it's divorce or job loss or athletes transitioning into life after sport, anyone that only wants to talk about your past, they become the scariest person. And why I call him in my book is the scoreboard watching. Anyone that's going to keep you there is, to me, the scariest character you can be associated with.
Love that. Love that. And I do think, keeping the sports analogy going, it doesn't ever hurt to watch the game tape to improve your performance, but you should always be watching the tape with an eye toward what you should do in the next game
Exactly.
and not beating yourself up by the fact that you lost, you missed the touchdown or whatever. So, we all have those toxic people in our lives, at networking events, it's kind of easy because I just say, there's so many great people here. I'd like to mix and mingle. And that's a very easy way to escape. But let's say you have that friend in your life who's a negative Nelly or a perpetual narcissist, or we're living in an era where, I have friends who are on both sides of the political uh,
Spectrum.
yeah, and
Spectrum.
we just don't talk about it. We just say, all right, that's a topic that we will just agree to not ever talk about. But when you're in another situation, a friend who you've known for a long time, somebody who is that drain on your peace. Stacey, do you have any tips for avoiding them other than just unfollowing them on social?
I have a lot of people like that. Besides the social, how am I supposed to get rid of them? Right? I've just stopped calling. I've cut off all communications. I'm not blocking them. I'm not like doing anything like not unfollowing or blocking. I just stopped communicating. I'm done. It's over. But I do fall apart. And they usually do come back. And then it takes a few more years and then it's over again. But I think this time I'm done.
Brooke has heard me say this. Never, ever, ever engage in an Instagram text war or a text war of any kind. If you have
You want nothing in print.
use your words. Use your words and don't spend time talking to random strangers because they'll just steal your joy. I actually sat at the table the other night with one of the therapists from 90 Day Fiancé. And his husband was telling me that being on reality TV has been very tough for him because he gets trolled by strangers all the time. And it's just really hard when you put yourself out in public to become the victim of that. So, Tori, what about
But when you put yourself out in public, you open yourself up to it. It's like, why aren't we all on reality TV? Why not? Because why open yourself up?
Exactly. Tori, what about
Well,
you? Any tips for peace outing?
I would agree with Stacy in why even give them your energy when it comes to blocking and unfollowing. Just stop the communication. I feel like when you unblock or unfollow or something like that, it's showing them that they got to you. So I let them. Please watch all of it and then be jealous from afar. But no, I it took me a while to learn how to say no, and especially to clients, because I always felt like every person, I had to help, and it doesn't work out that way. And some of the people that you say yes to end up being your worst clients. So I've learned to say no, and also not to over explain my no. Right. I feel like a lot of times too, people go into all these stories as to why they can't, coming up with all these excuses. And I just flat out say, I'm not available to make it. End of story, period.
Love that. Heather, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with you, Tori. And detach without drama. You don't owe everyone an explanation. In fact, sometimes giving one can backfire, like especially if you're dealing with a narcissist or a manipulative or toxic person. Often if you try to explain like why you're stepping back, they'll twist your words or gaslight you into thinking your reason isn't valid, or make you question your own experience. And that's not about you. That's about that person and their way of trying to pull you back in. So I think if you feel there's any chance of that even happening, the healthiest move is just to save your own energy and just detach. You don't owe them an explanation. Might look like fewer calls, or just engaging less, or just maybe just cold turkey cutting it all off, whatever that looks like for you. But protect your peace, and you don't always owe an explanation.
Yeah, Brooke, I'm actually interested in hearing your response on this one because you're a TikTok influencer and you get constantly trolled by randos. So, have you learned anything over time in terms of engagement with haters?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to everything to do with me and not so much about them. I was engaging with a lot of toxicity and I had to look at myself and kind of think, why is this my world? Why is this going on in my life? And then I realized that I'm entertaining it. I'm full on entertaining it. So cutting this off, not responding, doing whatever you have to do to get as far away from it. For I had toxic people in North Carolina. I moved across the country. I mean, I
Kind of
will leave it.
extreme.
Yeah,
Are you in the witness protection program? Is there something you
maybe. No, I'm just, really detaching from it and and you have to really just do some self-reflection on top of that.
Brett,
I'll
what
probably
about
jump on
you?
the back of Tori there is that, like, the older I get, the more I'm aware of sacred selfishness. And I think we're all got to just, you learn to value the ability to say no to things that's going to drain you. The ability, anytime you're spending 15 minutes with someone that's, taken away from your family time, it's time that's I'd rather be spending with them. Becoming more sacredly selfish is the goal.
I
That's
like that. Can you put
I
that on a
will,
t-shirt?
and it'll be going cheap, don't it?
Just to clarify, when I unfollow people, it's mainly because I'm up to 5,000 followers on Facebook. And so I started a new page. So I figured if somebody really wants to connect with me, they'll either call me up and say, where have you been? Or I notice we're not friends anymore. But that's actually never happened. I'll mute
Can I
somebody.
ask you, because it's a tough one, is it what following up what Brooke said, you know, because you're told to respond. You're told to respond to comments, and that's how you build engagement and things. But there's just some comments you just don't want to respond to.
Exactly. That's why they invented the block
Got it.
function. All right. So now the best part where we get to shamelessly self promote. Tori, why don't we start with you? If people, and Tori and Brooke, if people want to buy a home or rent a home, what is the best way to find you?
They can go to
Tori, you
torytoth.com.
TOTH, ToriToth.com. And Brooke, what about you?
Yes.
You can Google. I mean, I've got my own website through my team, but you could just Google my name and I'll come up on multiple platforms. You might even see my TikTok in there. So just all these different platforms, but you will find me.
Stacy, what about you?
StacyKnows.com, Stacy Knows at Instagram, Stacy Knows TikTok, Stacy Knows YouTube, Stacy Knows Facebook,
Stacy knows
I,
everything.
yeah, I've got the branding down.
Heather.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Nancy. It's been a
Oh, my
great
pleasure.
conversation with all of you guys. And for anyone who listening who wants to stay connected, you can find out more about what I do at filmfestivalinsider.com, or you can follow me on socials. I'm particularly active on Instagram at the Heather Britt.
Great. And if you're a filmmaker and you want to get distribution or learn how to get on the circuit, Heather is launching a great platform to help filmmakers do that. Because we were talking earlier, filmmakers have a tendency, like many of us, to be very creative, but to sometimes struggle with getting their stuff out into the world. And Brett,
Thank
what
you.
about
Instagram
you?
is Brett Flanagan 1963. Yeah,
Let me
yeah, I
guess, you
know,
were
I
born
know,
in
I know. That's a
1963.
mistake. But I was I was trying to be honest. And the website is the Next Chapter Co.
And you obviously have all found me, who's ever listening to or watching this, because you're listening or watching. But my personal brand website is Nancy. You can follow me on Instagram at nancyaf_, because somebody had it without the underscore. I have no idea who. You can watch all of my episodes on YouTube or listen wherever you happen to get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, whatever. And I will be launching, maybe by the time you're listening to this, it will have already happened, a series of badass workshops to help you be the best version of yourself that you could be. I am, since we just are coming out of back to school season, I am the tough but fair school teacher who will always tell it to you like it is. I don't give you too much homework. I may or may not give you detention. My limits are pretty wide. And if you'd like to be a guest on an upcoming show, just email me at nancyashenker@gmail.com. And remember, whatever you do, whoever you meet, whatever you're doing this Halloween, remember to be age blind. Peace out.